Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to New Earth Practices. So just so you know, if you guys are tuning into my channel, because I know there's a lot of new subscribers on my YouTube channel now, we basically have 3 webcasts per week, right? So on Tuesdays, we have New Earth Insights, and that's where I talk a lot more about current events and what's happening, okay? Then today is New Earth Practices, and this is the webcast that's dedicated to inner work, to working within yourself, to working within your heart, to working with the spiritual journey. That's really what this webcast is all about. Then tomorrow, Friday, we have New Earth TV Live, and that's kind of a mixture of the two, right? So we have guided meditation, we have practices, we have healing, and we have Q&A for tomorrow, okay? So just so you guys know, I will not be taking any questions in regards to current events, okay? Save those for Tuesdays, and save those for Fridays. Today, it's New Earth Practices. Today, we're working within. And this is the most important webcast out of all 3, right? If you work with yourself, you start going within yourself, you start working with your heart, you start cleaning out your heart, you start working with who you truly are. That is far more important than anything else relating to current events or to what's happening in the world or anything from the outside, right? So we're getting out of duality and we're coming into the non-dual. And that's what New Earth Practices is all about. All right, so I'll just go ahead and take these off since I don't think I'll need them today. And we're going to start off just with our warm-up exercise, okay? So just get yourself nice and relaxed, nice and comfortable, making sure the spine is nice and straight. And we're just going to take some deep cleansing breaths. Deep breath in, deep breath out. Once again, deep breath in, deep breath out, and one more time, deep breath in, deep breath out. And just relaxing yourself now and breathing normally. And now we're going to move on to the second phase of breath, which is heart rate variability, okay? So with heart rate variability, we're doing nose breathing, okay? Inhale, exhale through the nose. We're going to do 4 seconds in, 6 seconds out, okay? So follow along with me now if you like. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And let's repeat this now for 2 minutes. And one more time. And you can relax or you can continue. I'm already just doing this for 2 minutes and I'm already feeling that nice, beautiful, relaxing, calm, kind of buzzing sensation. It's a wonderful feeling, right? Keep working with the heart rate variability, everybody, okay? So like I said, there's a time and a place where we can look into what's happening in the outside world, right? We basically have our antenna up and we're receiving the transmissions and we're getting this information about what's happening in the world, but that's not you, right? You're not the world. You are the self, right? And the self is just a living manifestation of the world, right? So everything that God represents, everything that Spirit represents, everything that the world is again a reflection of that. It is a reflection of Spirit. It is a reflection of the great intelligence. It is a reflection of God. That's who you are, far beyond any of these circumstances, conditions, and causes. And this is what we're doing here in this moment. We're coming back into ourselves. We're realizing the power that we ourselves hold. That's the most important thing. Okay? So, continuing heart rate variability, if you like, we're going to go into the next step now, where we're just going to hold up our fingers just like this, both index fingers, and we just want to put them into our peripheral vision. Okay, so we're just kind of stretching them out a little bit, just so we're seeing them in our peripherals. And we have a center point that we're focusing on right now. Okay, and I want you right now just to take in everything that you see 360 degrees as best as you can. This is why we have the peripheral markers. We're focusing on the peripheral markers, although we're looking ahead. Okay, so I just want you, maybe not 360 degrees, but 180 degrees. Okay, and just focusing on those peripheral markers now. Okay, and now I want you to bring your attention to your ears. And I want you to focus on everything that you hear now. And bringing your attention to your nose, I want you to take in everything that you smell now. Okay, bringing your attention to your hands and to your feet and to your skin. Taking in everything that you touch now. And bringing your attention to your mouth. Taking in everything that you taste now. And now I want you to experience all 5 of those senses at the same time. Everything you see, smell, taste, touch, and hear. All at once. Now. Okay, how quiet is your mind? Right, you guys can let me know. You're doing this exercise with me? Talk to me in the chat. How do you feel when you're doing the 5 senses exercise? How do you feel when you're doing the heart rate variability? Right, do you feel the relaxation just coming over you? Do you feel that calm and that centeredness that comes over you? If you're feeling somewhat calm, that's good. Keep doing it. Right, use that heart rate variability to go for 5 minutes, for 10 minutes, for 15 minutes, for 20 minutes. Okay? Go into your senses. Start observing your senses. Just one at a time, and then all 5 senses at the same time. You're just taking it all in. You're just observing it. And you will notice that your mind just goes completely blank. The thoughts start to minimalize. The thoughts start to vanish. And you're now just with yourself. And when you're in that space, you're not concerned about current affairs. You're not concerned about the state of the world. You're not concerned about these worries or anxieties or fears or anger or anything of that nature. You're completely in a state of peace. And this, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, is your power. When you are present in this moment, staying within yourself, and your power is here, you are at your strongest. This is your mightiness. This is your godliness when we're present. Okay? So let's remember that. Exactly. Relax, calm, and have a clear mind. All right. Okay. So now we're going to get into our discussion today, where we're going to be looking deeper into cord cutting. Okay, now I have talked about this previously. I have actually talked about it through previous New Earth Practices episode, and have also taught you guys to incorporate this into BCR. Right, but we're going to look a little bit more deeper into it today. So I'm just going to go to my whiteboard here. Okay, so we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about cord cutting. So what in the name of all that is sacred am I talking about with cord cutting? Well, let's take a look at Mr. Stickman here. Okay, gotta love my art. Okay, so we'll just refer to this guy as Bob. Okay, so let's take a look in the idea of Bob really looking into these particular current events. Right here he's seeing a lot of anger in his life, right? Anger. Okay, there's parts of him that are sad. Okay, he's sad. And we can go on. We have all these other emotional blunders. We're attached to events, we're attached to people in our life, we're attached to our career, we're attached to our finances, we're attached to our own dilemmas, our own emotional conditions, all of this noise, all of this white noise that's occurring inside of us. Well, look what's happening here. We have these cords. These cords tether absolutely everything that we give our attention to, and I mean absolutely everything. Everything is made up of cords. It's made up of these invisible strings that tether you to everything that you consider to be important in life, whether they're positive or whether they're negative. It doesn't matter. Right? If I'm angry about something, I'm tethered. I'm corded to that particular situation. If I'm mad at my mother, I'm mad at my brother, I'm mad at my dad, I'm mad at the President of the United States. Okay, I'm mad about this situation. There's tethers. There's all these cords that are connecting to here because through the power of my thought and through my bondage of emotion, I tether my entire being towards that situation. I tether everything that represents my focus, my attention, tethers to that anger. And we can have different forms of anger, right? It's about a person. It's about a place. It's about an event. It's about a thing. Okay? All these different things are also tethered to us. So we have all of these insane amount of cords, all of these tethers that are linked directly to all of these things that we have given meaning to. And of course, there's happy things as well too, right? So we have some happy, joyful things that make us smile, that we're tethered to as well too. These are all attachments. For as long as you have cords connecting you to events within your life, themes within your life, these are attachments altogether. And what the great sages would always teach you is that whenever you have these strings, these invisible strings, these invisible tethers, here's your heart, and you're feeling this aura around your being, where there's absolutely no tethers, no strings attached whatsoever. All of them have been completely released. We've cut them loose. And that we are simply in the harmony of our own heart, of our own truth, of our own self. And that is what you would consider to be an enlightened being. Okay? An enlightened being forms no form of attachment whatsoever. They are completely in their God power. They realize who they truly are. And they are not concerned about the outer circumstances of the world that is causing them to form these emotional connections, these thought forms, this thought bondage, these belief systems that say, oh my goodness, all of this is happening in the outside world. Right? So, this is what we're looking to clean up. We want to work to clear out as many of these tethers as we possibly can. This even includes the idea of, in time, positive tethers. Okay? We don't want to have any tethers. We don't want to have any cords whatsoever. If you are looking to truly go deeply into your inner self, to know the God power within you, to know who you really are. All of this has to go. All of it. And that's how we move into sagehood, right? That's how we are a masterful sage. That's how we are a wise teacher. That's how we are an enlightened one. An enlightened one does not have these cords, okay? But they still have human behavior, right? These enlightened ones, in that sense, will still scold you in certain ways, because what they're doing is they're taking their inner divine power and they're making themselves 100 feet tall, where this little ego is complaining and yelling, oh, this isn't fair, how come you're doing this, and blah, 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 blah. And all of a sudden the master just grows themselves, their assertiveness, their light, their truth, growing 150 feet tall, and basically looking down at that little ego and saying, be gone, and it will be gone, right? So when you're looking at a master in that sense, it's not about them being surfing on a rainbow. It's not about them being all happy, right? It's like the Joker face where they're always smiling and the smile is so wide that you have to surgically remove it from their face. It's not about that. It's contentment. It's the nature of content, and they can now play with the entire bandwidth of reality any way they see fit, because they are not tethered to the world anymore. So, if we're looking over here, they could scold you, okay? They could bark at you. They could basically put you in your place and then come right back here. They can praise you. They can bless you. They are honoring you and encouraging you. And then they come right back in their place. They can be completely silent, say absolutely nothing to you, and just be and remain in their place. Okay? We have a very poor conception of what it is to be an enlightened being, because hardly anybody is correct, right? Because we're looking at all these things in regards to what we can explain, and the only thing I can do is really share through an analogy about understanding this, because even what I share with you guys here still isn't quite correct, because you have to feel it for yourself. But if this is the contrast to everything that is, this is the rainbow band, a sage, an enlightened one, one who is not attached to the world, can play with anything they want. Anything. Okay? Again, there may be an egoholic that comes over to this master and just starts screaming, why aren't you doing it? You have all this knowledge. Why are you sitting on top of this hill? And why aren't you going outside in the world and helping people? Blah, 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 blah. The master could just sit here nice and quietly and just smile at that person. The master could be very kind and compassionate and answer his question with grace. Or the master could come over here and put that little ego in his place. What makes you think that I'm not doing anything? Can you perceive that beyond your little ego that you're perceiving right now? Right? And putting that person right in their place. Yet, they're still completely content inside the heart. There's no strings coming out. Because the moment that they say these things, it's immediately forgotten. Right? So basically, that's the whole idea. He is siphoning the contrast of the rainbow spectrum and shining this powerful light of truth against this tiny little ego and watching that ego burst into flames. Psh, scorched, gone. Or he could do anything else throughout the contrast of the spectrum, because he's not attached to the earth life. He's not attached to explanation. He's not attached to current affairs. He's not attached to outside situations and circumstances and conditions and causes. He is beyond all of that. So, this is what we're going to look into today, is looking a lot more into the nature of cords, right? And looking into the idea of learning to cut your cords, right? Like I said, I have talked about this previously, but it's always good to add on more to this, because this, of course, is a very big topic. So, how about that? How do we cut our cords so that we can be free of a lot of these situations, a lot of our emotional beliefs, a lot of our hard-coded belief systems that are basically penetrating us and causing us to suffer, right? So as soon as we have a cord here, here's the theme relating to how that cord is attached, okay? So let's say, for example, that this is a situation of jealousy, okay? Feeling very jealous about a person, feeling very, well, it's kind of a two-way street here. There's envy as well too, right? There's envy and there's jealousy. They are not opposites, but they are the source to each other. Envy is the source of jealousy. Jealousy is the source of envy. So it's an extreme, but we are tethered to this. Oh, I had this previous partner, and now he or she seems so happy, and they're with this new partner, and they're all so happy, and they're all so celebrating. Oh, geez, I wish I had that. Oh, I'm so mad at this person. I wish they weren't like that. I wish I could just do something to them to make them feel as miserable as I do, etc., etc. Right? So there's, again, a feeling of revenge. Okay, there's bitterness. There's resentment. Goes on and on, right? You can look at many different things here. But nonetheless, this is what's tethered to this person. Okay, male, female, doesn't matter. So what we are doing here is we're doing something like the BCR technique. Okay, we're working with our breath, right? We're doing phase 1 and phase 2 breath, deep cleansing breaths, moving into HRV, heart rate variability, doing that for 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes. And then we move from active calmness into subtle calmness. We move from those bobbing waves to that subtle calmness. And now we go into reinforcement, which means we create, through the heart, our space that completely complements the heart, that completely complements love, that completely complements truth, that completely complements compassion, that completely complements your God self. And this is what's created through your reality when you go into that space. And now there's so much intelligence, there's so much strength, there's so much courage, there's so much love, there's so much light that's coming out of that. And here you are, being filled up with all of this beautiful, powerful God energy, love energy, right? The energy of true life. And you're filled up with that now. So, this is what happens once we successfully complete the BCR technique. Before we do this, we're looking at this cord. So I want you guys to do something with me now. I want you just to place your hand upon your heart, left hand, right hand, doesn't matter. Take a deep breath in, take a deep breath out. And ask yourself, what's bothering you right now, right? Think back to this morning. Think back to yesterday. Think back to the day before. What is it in recent memory that has been bothering you, that's been conflicting to you? Something that's basically taking your focus out of the present moment and putting it towards a memory and saying, this thing is happening and it's driving me crazy. Okay? I want you just to think of that theme, whatever that theme is. Okay? Maybe you're angry at somebody. Maybe you're upset about a current event. Maybe you're fearful about a current event, whatever it may be. Okay? And now that you have that intention in mind, I want you just to take your finger, and I want you just to hold it a couple of inches in front of your chest, and I want you to imagine that you're just pinching down. You're pinching down on a cord, okay? And that cord feels like a fishing wire, okay? It's very, very tight. It's like a tightly wound piece of fishing wire. It's really, really tight. You could also look at it as a guitar string, okay? Finely tuned guitar string. It's really, really tight, okay? So that's what this represents here. This is a tight cord, and the tightness represents your emotional attachment to that particular event, whatever that situation is. The tighter it feels, that is, again, how attached you are to it, right? So we're being aware of that right now. We're just aware, okay, yeah, I'm feeling this sensation right now. It does feel tight. It feels as tight as a guitar string, all right? Because this is what I want you to go into. I want you to look at something that bothers you, okay? Not something that doesn't bother you, right? If we're not being bothered by something, you're not going to have a tight string, okay? We want to look for that tight string. We want to find out what's there. Okay, now we start doing the BCR technique. Okay, we start doing our breath work, deep cleansing breaths. Okay, then we go into phase 2, heart rate variability. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Repeat, 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 until you move from active calmness to subtle calmness. You go into subtle calmness. You're feeling a lot more relaxed. You're feeling a lot more centered. Good. You're in calmness. So now we move into reinforcement. We go into our space. Now we feel the heart. Now we feel all these things that are beautiful. We feel the tranquility. We feel the perfection of our being from inside, because inside is the perfection. Outside is the imperfection. Right? So we're going inside. Everything is perfect. Doesn't matter what it is you see. Does not matter what it is you experience. It's your reality. It's your space of perfection. And we stay there. And we take all this in. We accumulate all this pure love energy. We feel our loved ones with us. We feel our angels with us. We feel everything that is beautiful together with us here in this moment. And we're charging with that energy. We're enveloping that energy. And we're diffusing that energy. We're making it even stronger. We're letting it flow through us. And we're making it stronger. We're like this great pillar of light. And now we're using the gauge. Right? Now we're feeling so much love. We're feeling so much happiness. We're feeling so much joy. I'm smiling. I'm chuckling. I'm laughing. I feel great. I feel powerful. I feel in grace. I feel so beautiful. I feel brilliant. I feel God with me in this moment. And we get that 10 out of 10 of love energy on the scale. And now we compress that ball. And now we put it into the chest. And we feel that ball of love just melting into our being. Just feeling that pure bliss and happiness that just fills every cell of our body. And now we talk to the love energy itself. Now it may be an entity. Now it may be a guide. But nonetheless, we're talking to that love energy. And all I want you to do when you're talking to that love energy and say, just be here with me. Be here with me. Let me feel you through every cell of my body. Right? And now we're going to focus back on the cord. Now we're going to focus back on that cord. And wow, Brad, it feels limp. It's like I'm trying to hold a wet noodle together here. It's completely limp. It has no buoyancy to it anymore. It has none of that strength as it once did. Exactly. That's what's happened to the cord. It's gone limp. So, now that it's gone limp and we can feel it, it's very, very loose. Now we're able to cut it away. So now we use the opposite hand as a blade and saying, I forgive this, I clear it away. We cut the cord and we let the love energy take care of it. Okay? So if I cut that cord, I say, love energy, take care of it. It's done. I'm released from it. Okay? That's what we're doing. That is how cord cutting is done. That's how it's done properly. Okay? A lot of people are trying to cut this cord when it's tight. You can't do that, right? You may cut it, but it's going to regrow back again, right? Some people in that sense may try and cut a cord and they may actually get an emotional episode after cutting it, because they were not ready to cut that cord. It all depends on the person, right? Someone who's deeply empathic, for example, may try to cut the cord. Either it bounces off and it can't be cut, or it is cut, but there's a type of emotional episode that they have, right? And then you just basically say, okay, just calm down, follow the breath, regather yourself. And that's premature, okay? So this is really the proper way of how we cut the cord. We have to make sure that that cord is loose. We have to make sure that that cord is limp. Because when that cord is limp, this is giving you the impression right now that you are free. Completely free of everything that represented that situation. The jealousy, the envy, the bitterness, the resentment, the revenge, All of that's completely cleared away now. It's been tranquilized. So when your tethered situation, your tethered theme becomes tranquilized, that's where the cord gets loose. And that's when you can cut it. That's when you cut the cords. Okay? So this is an addition to the BCR technique. Right? So when you're doing the BCR, you got all that love energy flowing through you. Right? You're just telling that love energy just to be with me. Be with me in this moment as I work to clear out this nagging cord that's been with me for quite some time. Because now I no longer feel it. It's limp. Right? So now I just use my other hand as a blade. I cut it. I'm releasing it. I'm completely in forgiveness with it. I cannot even really care about it anymore. Love energy, take care of it. And it does. Now you're free. Okay? Now, imagine doing that several times with other big events within your life. Okay? Because that's what we're doing. We're doing the BCR technique. It's very simple to do. Okay? And we're feeling those tight cords go limp. And once they're limp, we can cut them. So you never ever cut cords that are tight. You only ever cut cords when they are gone limp. When they're limp, right? It's your own body telling you this. You'll even feel it. It's almost like a kinetic response, right? It's like kinesiology. You'll feel a tight cord here, right? You'll feel that pressure. You'll feel that attachment. It's like it's a magnetic. You're feeling it really strongly. Then you do BCR, and you just suddenly feel like your hand goes a little bit limp, right? You can even do this with your own hand, okay? If you don't even want to play with a cord, you can do this with your own hand, okay? Show me the strength of this cord right now. Yeah, it's really strong, okay? And you come back to it after BCR. How's it feeling right now? Oh, it's really limp right now. I can feel like my arm is really, really limp, right? This can be done in kinesiology, right? So we're feeling the hand just go very, very limp. I can't make it as strong when I'm thinking about it. Good. That means the cord is loose. Cut it. And now it's gone, okay? So we only ever cut a cord when it is loose. We never cut it when it's tight. Okay? So this is the cord cutting. And the more that you're doing this and you're clearing yourself out, you're going to, again, reach that nature of the sage. You're going to be that sage sitting on top of the hill, completely in contentment with their God self, remaining here, exploring the depths within their own being, realizing who they truly are, not attached to any earth affairs whatsoever, as they are free. And because they're free, they can play with the contrast. They have the administration privileges, and they can go throughout the entire contrast of the rainbow, right? Being as stern and direct, or kind and compassionate, or just completely kept in silence. Anything they want to do. And they are not affected in regards to the ramifications of karma because they're past that. Nothing that they do sticks. It's like a burst of light. And gone. Burst of light. Gone. Nothing sticks because they know God. That's the requirement, guys. That's what you need to do. You have to know God by being God. You have to know the self by being the self. You have to know the divine by being the divine. You have to know the heart by being the heart. Right? And doing something like BCR is helping you on the right track here. Right? So the BCR is working to taking you out of duality. That's its goal. That's exactly why I created it in the way that it is. Okay? BCR takes you out of duality. Okay? So it's basically that bridge. It's kind of like here's the center point, and here was duality, and now you're at a crossroads. Do I continue to follow this path forward, where I look into the non-dual, or do I still feel tugged to go left or right, relating to the nature of duality? Notice that we're following the middle of path here. We're not following the left or the right path because that too relates to extremes, and those are just different resurrections of the duality, right? It's like the idea of two doors. Okay? So what I'd like you guys to try right now, here in physical reality, is I want you to try and go through 2 doors at once. One door is over here, and the other door is over here. I want you to go through 2 doors at once. Go for it. At the same time. You can't do it. Okay? This is the same thing. Right? So here's the material, dualistic door, and here's the door of God. Which one do you want to go through? Because you can't go through 2 doors at once. It goes back to what Jesus said, no man can serve 2 masters. Either he will hate one and love the other, or he will cling to one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and the material realm, right? God and mammon, or the material world, or money, or greed, or duality. Really, a lot of the stuff that Jesus was talking about was the non-dual. Okay? Jesus was a non-dual teacher. Okay? Jesus was also a yogi. That's who he was. And he realized the Christ within himself because he spoke as the Christ. Right? So we don't look at this. We look at this. We look at the Christ because he embodied that. He was the pure expression of the Christ. And he spoke as God. And he spoke as a Christed being. Right? And that was all about the nature of his understanding was the non-dual. If you truly want to know what reality honestly is, it's the non-dual. Okay? If you are getting trapped inside duality, you will never know what life truly is. You won't. You're just a hamster on a wheel, constantly spinning, constantly going round and round and round and round, lifetime after lifetime, lifetime after lifetime, not getting any closer to the real truth because you have not gone here. You got to go into the non-dual to understand what truth really is. So again, we can play around with the mind all we want because we're children in a sandbox. That's all we're doing. We're playing in a sandbox. We're making all these situations. We're creating all these stories. We're looking at these characters that we're creating. We're getting involved with the story because it's so entrenching. But it's just you playing in a sandbox. That's all it is. And you form these attachments with these sand figurines that you've created, with these sand castles that you've created, with all of these forms that you've created out of the sand. But the non-dual perspective will always tell you, you could look at this through Advaita Vedanta, that if we're looking at the idea of a sand in a sand castle, right? Here's the sand castle, and here's the sand. Okay? When we're looking at it from the non-dual perspective, the sand is one with the sand castle, but the sand castle cannot be one with the sand, because the sand castle itself is a form. It's an object. And therefore it only sees itself as an object. And as long as you see yourself as an object, you remain in duality. Because you think you're this form. You think you're this object. You think that you're this mind. You think that you're this body. You think that you're your thoughts. You think that you're your emotions. You think that you're your expressions. You think that you're your experiences. And you're none of that. So it's the underlining reality here. The sand castle cannot be one with the sand because the sand castle only sees itself as its objectivity. It is when the sand castle therefore has a realization to know that it is the sand from whence it came, that it now understands that sand, or the true consciousness that is the underlining reality. This is the non-dual. Okay? So, you have to understand that you're not a human being because that's an object. You're spirit, right? Spirit creating the object of a human body to incarnate in, to help that experience realize who it really is. It's spirit touching every facet of life. And a lot of other facets of life already realize this. We humans are one of the ones that are pretty much behind in all this because we have been programmed and taught incorrectly. None of this is being taught in modern schools. right? Particularly in the West. Hey guys, we're going to go look at non-duality today in our grade 12 class. Not going to happen, right? We're going to teach you guys about how you're all gods and that how all this reality is indeed just Maya. That's never happened, right? Why do you think that is? Because those are all part of control agendas. That's keeping you in a false, backwards, inverted pentagram alignment to giving yourself the impression, oh, this is how life must be. It's torment, it's suffering, it's anguish. And now I'm looking at all these things, what's happening in the world with current events and all these things taking place. And oh my goodness, how horrible. Well, that's you tethered to everything. You are not at peace. You are malpracticing yourself because you're constantly living in the outside world. This is what's referred to as spiritual malpractice. When a person is completely confined and attached and absolutely believes that all they are is the sandcastle in the sand, where you think you're an object, where you think you're a body, where you think you're a form. You've forgotten who you really are. Because it's not all these chords. It's not all these emotions. It's not all these thoughts. It's not all these expressions. It's not all these experiences, all these attachments that you're forming all over the place. My God, the world is against me. What do I do? How do I get out of this? Oh my God, please help me. This is getting too far. What do I do? How do I get out of this? And look what you're doing. You're constantly looking outside for sanctity, and you can't. The outside world is not sanctity. It's a projection, right? It's the outside. It's the projection screen of what we're feeling inside here. This is spirit. Spirit is inside the heart. The inside is the perfection. So you are moving in through the inner perfection of your being to radiate that outwards. Outside is always going to be flaw. Outside is always going to be impermanence. Outside is always going to be imperfection. Why do you try to find perfection where perfection does not exist? Because all there is imperfection. Right? So is this becoming a realization to you guys? Why do I keep putting my energy outside? Why do I think that everything that I do in the outside world is going to bring me perfection? Because it's not. Yes, we have work to do here in the outside world. Yes, we decide to commit to certain things. We practice certain things. But the best way for you to do this is when you start going into the heart. You start working in here. And you just start by going into the breath. Just like what I've taught you guys, BCR is elementary. It's the elementary beginnings to you realizing who you truly are. Because after BCR comes the non-dual. And now you start moving into the non-dual, and now you get into the quiet, just as you did with me at the beginning of this broadcast, where you did deep cleansing, where you did heart rate variability, where you observed the 5 senses and everything went quiet. That's you well ahead of the game. That's you achieving in a moment what some people have taken 20, 30, 40 years to try and achieve in meditation because they weren't taught meditation properly. You guys are miles ahead because now you're doing BCR technique. Now it's bringing you into the non-dual. And now you're realizing, oh my goodness, this is who I really am. And all I'm doing is I'm radiating that light from the inside and I'm bringing peace to everything within my world. Now you get it. Now you understand. And now you can cut those cords. Those cords get cut. Because you're no longer seeing yourself in victimization. You're no longer seeing yourself in aggression. You're no longer seeing yourself impaired. You're no longer seeing yourself in trouble. You're no longer seeing yourself completely neck deep in harshness and duality. All of that passes away. So this is exactly what I'm teaching you guys today, is the importance of working together with realizing what these cords are doing, how we are tethering ourselves completely to an outer reality where we are feeding duality constantly. And like I said, it's good that we're keeping aware about what's happening in the current affairs of the world, but we're not getting all saturated with it. We're not getting so deeply involved with it. We're not thinking that our lives are over because the government's doing this or the government's doing that. Okay? You have to let the life movie be the life movie. You just do what you know you're here to do. Right? You spread your love. You share this with other people. And you may have people that will reject that, and that's okay. But do not let that feel like that flaunts your peace within yourself. Okay? This can never be disturbed. The outside here can be disturbed, but not in here. So what happens when you live in here? You are completely imperturbable. You have equanimity, right? You are moving into the non-dual, and you are becoming this great sage because you're spending time cutting out all these cords. And guess what happens when you start living in the inside world? You cut through the veils of illusions. You know what is illusionary in the outside world. You can never prove how that happens, but you just know it. When I'm looking at all these things in regards to the governments, when I'm looking at COVID, when I'm looking at all these other situations that are unfolding, and I see what there's plans to do this and there's plans to do that, and I just go within and I cut through the fabric and I'm saying, guys, that's all lies. It's nothing but a movie. It's nothing but a stage play. Right? We're just getting so worked up over a life movie that are meant for people who are still asleep to wake themselves up. And that's all that's happening. Right? When I talk about the counterforces, I'm talking about us. I'm not just talking about some other group. You guys are the counterforces. You're the counterforces because you're the ones that transcend those boundaries of corruption and control. That all represents the ego. That's all manifestations of ego. Okay, I'm not just talking about a behind-the-scenes task force here. They're included. Everybody's the counterforce. To every force that is truly corrupt, there is a counterforce that grows. And as this corruption grows, the counterforce grows. And it even grows a little stronger because it comes back threefold. And then there's the time where it draws closer and closer and closer based upon the natural cycles of life, and it merges with that corruption. And now when the counterforces come together, because the counterforces represent the divine, represents the light, represents the true balance factor, everything in regards to that corruption starts to melt away. Because that's the nature of the counterforce. Whenever you perform an ill deed, an ill intention, a counterforce is made. Because the entire universe is biased to balance in an amusing way. It always works to restore balance. So when you're doing something heinous, when you're doing something evil, when you're doing something horrendous, it's like you're cutting a fabric and trying to get this corruption going. But the universe has a natural immune system. And now it calls in that counterforce immune system to take care of that lesion, take care of that tear, that cut from what corruption has been trying to do. So it goes in and it takes care of it. Corruption never ever succeeds. It can be prolonged, but it can never succeed because that's not what the universe is about. The universe is about balance. It will never lead chaos into the idea that it's taking over everything to where balance can never be restored. That's not possible, everybody. We are being told that that's what's happening, but that's not the case. Brad, how do you know this stuff? How do you know all this stuff is happening? Because I live in here. And I spend 13 years living in here. And I spend 13 years talking to the heart. And I spend 13 years going within and seeing what truly is. And through these eyes that I see, I can see where there is corruption. I can see where there is lies. I can see where there is an illusion. And I know how to cut that away. And I realize that if I'm attached to anything, I see that cord. And I loosen it and I cut it. Okay? It's what I do. This is, again, my whole journey. Because the inner world to me is more important than anything else. It's what I've devoted my life to for these past 13 years. And that's why I'm able to do what I do. Not because I'm better than any of you. It has nothing to do with that. I just look deeper into the inner world because it's bliss, it's harmony, it's perfection. Why wouldn't I be in there? Right? So I'm passing on everything that has brought me so much joy and so much blessings in life for you guys to see. But what I see so many times is people coiling a spring. But Brad, this has happened. But Brad, this is happening. But Brad, this is happening. And then that spring gets so tight, it'll eventually pop. And we want it to pop. Because we're coiling down that spring and we're trying to turn it and twist it and say, oh, but this is happening, this is happening, this is happening. And people just get so aggressive and they get so intent upon everything that feels like everything's going to hell. But all of a sudden, the spring recoils and it pops. And they go off flying. And they go off into the flying air, leading them into transformation. It's going to happen to every single one of us. Okay? Everyone will be at some particular point in the non-dual. It's inevitable. Because there are the invisible forces that govern everything. And they follow cycles. And those cycles we can see when we pay attention to the road signs. Right? And so when you pay attention to the road signs and you see these things coming up, you know, oh my goodness, this is taking place. There is a change that's going to happen here. You'll see it. You'll learn to see it because this becomes your eyes, not these. Okay? This becomes your meter. This becomes your discernment. This becomes your gauge. This becomes your visor where you're able to see where all illusion is. This is why people are able to send me stories and say, Brad, what about this? What about this? What about that? And I said, sorry, illusion. Sorry, not happening. So a lot of them are fear-based articles, right? And the majority of them I turned down. I said, sorry guys, nope, that's not happening. You need to clean yourself out. You need to go into BCR. You need to work within here. And you need to look at it with the true eye. If thine eye be single, the whole body shall be filled with light. Right? This is what you're using that's connected to this. Right? You are seeing it with the inner eye. You are seeing it with the inner truth. You are seeing it with the inner knowing. And by doing this, you cut away the cords, and now you're free. All right? So that's what I have to share with you guys today. Let's go into some questions here, if you guys have any questions in the chat. Okay. Just Redemption says, or Redemptionista says, Brad, happy to hear you say we are the counterforces. We've been holding the light for the sleepers for a long time now. Let's live a non-dual abundant life. Namaste, family. Beautifully said. Thank you very much. Yes, we are going to continue to hold that light. We're going to continue to be light bearers. This is why these beings who are so divine keep coming back every single age. Because here's the thing, you don't have to come back. Coming back into incarnation is always voluntary. Okay? It is never a mandatory process. No one is ever going to point your finger and saying, you got to go back there. You have to go back there or else. No. They will say, if you truly want to evolve yourself, it's a good idea to go back into incarnation so that you can right those wrongs that you're doing. Now, you may go to another school. You may go to a different dimensional earth. You may go to another plateau for you to look through other different experiences to evolve yourself a lot more. That's the good thing about incarnation. Incarnation is the magnifying glass of life. Okay? So I'll repeat that again. Incarnation is the magnifying glass of life. Okay? When you're in spirit and you're a spirit body, you have this entire big playground to play with. And after you leave this world, you can pretty much do whatever you want. You can spend 10,000 years in spirit, playing around with different dimensions, playing around with your own creations, going to spiritual communities, helping out other people behind the scenes, behind the world, so to speak. You can do all that stuff. But there will come a point where you will know, I want to come back. I want to do something again because I want to go in that magnifying glass and I want to really look into the heart of myself because I do want to go all the way to God. Okay, so if you want to go all the way to God, you need to go back into incarnation. You need to look at that magnifying glass so that you can move yourself up to God. Incarnation is what's helping us doing that. What's helping us do that all together. It's the amplifier. It's the magnifier. It's what helps us to really look deeply within ourselves because this is such a dense reality, right? It's such a dense realm that we are in, that we use incarnation as that magnifying glass. and we look deeper into ourselves through the density of incarnation. Because that's the more grander teaching. You actually learn a lot more through incarnation than you do by just being a spirit being. That's why it's here. Why do you think so many souls come here? And they incarnate as these lives, and they go through very strong states of confinement. Because that's the magnifying glass. That's the magnifying glass of life. It's helping you to look a lot more deeper into the flow of life than what you can do as a spirit being. Okay? Spirit being, we can look at certain things. We can certainly look at certain things with a certain type of amplification. But it's so much more deeper in physical incarnation. This is why there's so many souls that are signing up to Earth. So yeah, bring me here, man. Bring me here. Bring me here. I want to be here at this time. This time is exciting. Oh my goodness. It's a revolutionary time. I can't wait. Let me incarnate as a cat or something. I don't care. I just want to be on the earth plane. I want to be in that magnifying glass. I want to look at life in such a confined way because that's what's going to help me to grow. It's going to show me appreciation. It's going to give me so much compassion to the little things that I didn't think were so important. Well, that's what incarnation does, especially as a human life. You're looking at these little things that are so precious that you never thought were important before, right? You're looking at the importance of being with family. You're looking at the importance of taking care of nature. You're looking at the importance of how crucial it is for us to have clean drinking water or for us to have clean food, right? All these things that are, again, just the patterns of life that you are now able to see through yourself by being that magnifying glass of incarnation. That's why we do it. We come here, we want to help people. Yes, that's a big part. But we want to understand life on a much more concentrated level. And that's why we're physical. That's why we have a form. That's why we have a body. That's why we're looking at all these different things. That's why we have limitations assigned to ourselves, so that we can look into the preciousness of these patterns to understand how the flow of life truly works. And now we live that life, we leave the body, and we ascend just higher up, higher up, higher up, because now we see the preciousness of life, because what we're learning to do is how to be God. And in order for you to understand how God truly works, you have to look at the little things. You have to look in concentration. You have to be the elements of life. You have to understand how life works. You have to understand how the patterns and the cycles of transformation happen. And that's what incarnation teaches you. It's a school. The entire game of incarnation is school for the soul. Okay, when we come here for onto earth as a form, grand university for the soul, to know how to be God. And that's why Earth stands out so much. It's a grand university where it's teaching you how to be God. Right? So we may have to come back again and again and again, because it's one of the most challenging planets to be in all of the universe is Earth. Its difficulty level extremely hard, right? Here's super simple, here's easy, here's medium, here's not too bad, here's hard, here's very hard, here's super hard, here's, oh my God, it is extremely difficultly hard. That's really where we are, pertaining to Earth. It's the most advanced planets that exist, right? So for you to even be here, for you to incarnate on a planet like this, just shows how masterful a soul you are. This is not for wimps. Okay? This is not for, the kindergartens. This is not for the preschoolers. Okay? People spend so many incarnations on other worlds getting into this training and say, okay, I'm ready for Earth now, because I lift myself all the way up here, right? If here's the dense reality, and all the way up here we're moving into this godliness, and we cycle through and we come onto Earth. That's what's required. Okay? It's masters that are here. And I mean, every single human being here on this planet is a master. Brad, it really doesn't seem like it. I mean, come on. You got these guys like just drinking down beer and cheering for football and wanting to eat a bunch of popcorn and bloating themselves up and et cetera, et cetera. Come on, you're telling me those guys are masters? It's exactly what I'm telling you. Doesn't seem like it, but it's the truth, right? We're all masters because, again, we all just look into the programming that we have put upon ourselves and we forget who we are. At any particular moment, we can take that programming down and we remember our true potential, because I was one of those guys. I was one of those guys grabbing a beer and watching a hockey game or watching a pro wrestling match. I used to be a wrestler back in my early 20s, right? And I would be one of those guys as well too, until I started becoming a little bit more mature and I started looking into a novel because I wanted to write a novel. And that's what started my entire journey. That's how I met Adronis. It's how I got into channeling. It's how I got into meditation. It's how I got into healing. It's how I got into remote viewing. It's how I got into all these different things, this metaphysical spectrum. All started because I just wanted to write a novel. Okay? That's how it started for me. And look where I am right now. So anybody can have these profound transformations. It does not matter your walk of life, right? We all have the capability to return back to who we are, to come back into our source, and to know the non-dual path. All right? Super Cali asks, so the sleepers also learn. What's their purpose if they are just sheeps? Well, what's the purpose? Like I said, there was a point where I was a sheep. Because the whole idea is that you're coming out of a trance. You're coming out of a trance program. Right? So when you're looking, well, Brad, what's the purpose of a person who's just completely aligned as a sheep? Right? If they're a sheeple, what's their purpose? Because they had to go through all those extremes to then suddenly crack and realize how that's not the truth. That's not the way. So you engage yourself in all of these sleeper-based programs to therefore at some particular point come out of it and saying, I now know. I now know that the way I was living was not the way. I had to go through all of those experiences to finally crack my shell and come out of it, and now look at the debris of that shell of where I was. It's like how I went through, right? I went through a lot of things, and I was not a very emotional guy as well too. And I was holding on to a lot of things, and I had to crack. I had to crack my shell. I had to take that shell out. I had to look back at that shell and say, this is where I was putting all my energy in. Would I ever do that again? Nope. Not in a million lifetimes would I ever do that again. So do you see how the lesson is learned? You crack your shell. You keep going into extremes. And you start making yourself more rigid and more harder and harder and harder until one day you come out of that shell. You realize this is not the way to live. This is not who I am. I've had a realization moment. I've had an aha moment. I'm cracking out of that shell. I'm leaving it all behind. I had to go through that to realize how that was not the way for me to live life. I had to go through it. Experience is my teacher. And that's how incarnation works. It's your teacher. The teacher is experience. So you crack that shell and you step out of it and you look back. You said, I'm grateful for all those things right now because that's shown me exactly who I am by engaging into things that I know that I'm not, right? It's kind of like how you're teaching a drug addict to get off drugs, right? If they still feel a need for it, they'll keep going to the drug. They'll keep going to the alcohol. They'll keep going to the cigarette because they're going through escapism in that way, right? So they'll cling to that drug, but one day will come along where they have a conversation with somebody or whether it's just a realization with themselves. I'm not going to drink anymore. I'm not going to smoke anymore. I'm not going to do drugs anymore. Because I see exactly how it's been a crutch. It's me trying to avoid. It's me trying to escape. It's me trying to run away. It's me trying to put a blanket over all this pain. I'm done with that. I'm finished. You cannot cure an addict until they decide it's time to put all that down and they no longer want it. And that's the same thing with life. That's the same thing with all these experiences we play with. The idea of going from a 9-to-5 job and putting food on the table and doing all this stuff and doing the rat race and saying, I'm not doing this anymore. This is not the way to live. This is not why I was put here on this planet. And now I stop. There's shell cracks, right? It's like I said, you're coiling the spring until the spring cannot coil anymore, and then poof, it shoots off. That is for everybody. Everybody, all 8 billion humans on the planet will go through that recoil, right? Bashar talks about the idea of an elastic band, right? The greater you pull it back, goes shooting off. It's the same principle. That's for everybody. Does not matter. You come back again lifetime after lifetime, some particular point that coil is going to spring. At some particular point that elastic band is going to shoot off. It is inevitable that all life returns to God. Doesn't matter how long it takes. It's inevitable. All right? I want to crack. Believe me, you will. You will. But you can't force it, right? Even when you're hearing my words, right? Okay, Brad's sharing a lot of great understanding here, but I don't really feel like my shell's cracking. Well, maybe not, but that's okay, because at some point it will, right? I never expected my shell to crack when I was writing a novel. That's exactly what happened, right? Nobody talked to me. Nobody gave me some inspirational speech. I didn't get some wonderful video on YouTube that cracked my shell. It was just my idea to write a science fiction novel about what's really going on with the extraterrestrial presence, and that brought me here. It was my own decision to make that book. And instead of writing that book, I put it aside, and now I started looking into all these things. That cracked my shell. Okay? I didn't need some teacher to tell me about all this blah, 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 blah. Didn't happen to me. Everybody has their own unique experience to where their shell cracks. It will come to you, right? Just let it come to you. In the meantime, keep exploring all these things that I'm sharing with you guys. Perhaps it may come this way. Perhaps it may just come, again, some other particular way. But nonetheless, it doesn't matter how it comes. The fact is that it will be. It will be coming. All right? So we'll take one more question, guys. We're going to wrap up here. We're going to go to NM's question here. How can we cut cords to inanimate objects? Can we? Can we cut cords to a situation, example, mask wearing situation, all of it? NM, everything, everything, everything. The only reason you're attached to it with the cord is because you're emotionally invested in the situation. Does not matter if it's a living person. Does not matter if it's an event. Does not matter if it's a thing. Okay? People, places, events, things. All of them have cords around it because of your emotional investment in them. So if I have an emotional investment in a cigarette, because I have to keep smoking that, because I'm trying to hold on to things, I'm trying to keep myself stable, because if I don't feel I have a cigarette, well, then I'm going to burst apart. I'm just going to explode here. Well, there we go. There's my emotional attachment to that. So now I'll do something like the BCR technique, right? I'll put 10 out of 10 on the love scale. I'll fill myself with that love energy, putting it in every single cell. And now I'll hold on to that cord. How's my emotional feeling with my cigarette right now? Brad, it's limp. Great. Cut it. Psh. Spirit, take care of it. Love energy, take care of it. And now you notice, within days ahead, I haven't desired a cigarette. I have no desire for a cigarette anymore because I've cut the cord with it. I saw the emotional attachment that I had. I was afraid. I was putting a blanket over everything. I was putting a veil over my emotions. And I've decided not to do that anymore. BCR technique helped me with that. That's an example. Okay? You cut the cord. So the cigarette was an inanimate object. Okay? Alcohol, inanimate object. A drug, inanimate object. Okay? The idea of obsessing over the type of car that you want, and you have an old beater, right? And you really, really want to get a new car, and you can't get a new car because I'm not making enough money, blah, 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 and it's driving you crazy. Inanimate object. And so we clear it out the same way. We cut the cord when it's loose. And the BCR technique helps us with that. So it does not matter what it is, person, place, event, thing. Everything can be cleared because it's your emotional investment in those themes. Okay? Pauline says, once our shell is cracked, then what? You tell me. You tell me, what's next? Linda, you'll know that answer when that happens to you. Okay? I can't tell you what's next. That's up to you. Right? If we keep looking at what's next, what's next, what's next, what are we avoiding? We're avoiding this moment. We're avoiding being here. We're avoiding being now. Okay? So you have to decide. And thank you, Shrey, for your contribution, and Alma for yours as well. I'll get to your question here in a second, Alma. But again, that's the important thing. You guys have to say what's next. It's not for me to tell you how for you to guide your life. Okay? I can give you, again, perspectives here, experiences. I can even give you the idea about what I'm feeling inside you right now. But I will never, ever, ever make a choice for you guys. I will never, ever say, this is what you have to do next and you better do it. Who am I to say that? I'm not your God. I'm not your deity. So who am I to tell you what's next? That would be arrogance on my part. When your shell cracks, sit down and just listen. Listen to what's in here, and you'll know what to do. So many of you think you're lost, but as soon as you think you're lost, you're going right back to the outside again. Inside tells you everything. It tells you every single thing about yourself. And you have to settle yourself down, and you have to tune in, and you have to listen. Not hear, listen. And you'll know your path. You'll know what's ahead for you. I had nobody telling me what I needed to do after my shell cracked. I had to make that decision myself. I decided to leave a toxic marriage. I decided to go on my way. I decided to be alone for a while. I decided to work with channeling. I decided to work with healing. I decided to go into the inner path a lot more deeper. I made those decisions. I did not need anybody on some YouTube platform to tell me what I needed to do next. Right? Because again, that's me just saying, I don't trust myself. I need somebody else to tell me what the heck's going on. No. Because now you're doing something wrong again. You're relying out here into a realm that is imperfect and expecting somebody to guide your life. That's not right. Right? Nobody has greater knowledge than you do. Okay, even when I share these perspectives, guys, to you it's just philosophy. To me, I'm sharing my truth. But to you guys, it's just philosophy. That's it. I can never show you guys truth, ever. You have to do that. That's your job. Because you're the only perceiver here. It's like, you guys can never show me truth. I have to see it within myself. So, Pauline, do you get the idea now? Have faith in yourself. See you for who you are. Don't keep seeing yourself as a form. See God. Behold God. And that's what I'm doing as I'm doing the inner work. I am spirit. I am God consciousness. I am the self. That's who I am. I am not this form. I'm not this funny looking body. I'm not this funny looking material form. I am not the sandcastle. I'm the sand. And when you see yourself that way, you'll never be confused again. So that's what I have to share with you, Pauline. Be the sand, not the sandcastle. All right? Okay, Alma, we're going to end with your last question since it's a paid question here. How to deal with a person who is constantly stabbing you for no reason. Stabbing you. I guess you mean being aggressive to you. Should I just ignore that behavior? So Alma, I want you to look into that right now, okay? I want you to look at this. Let's paint a picture for everybody right now, okay? So here I am sitting at home, reading a book. All of a sudden I have a family member coming up and just unloading on me. You're doing this, and you're doing this all day, and you're good for nothing, and you can't do this, and blah, 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 blah. And now my ego gets offended. And now I stand up and say, what are you talking about? Why are you accusing me like that? Blah, 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 blah. And we have this big fight. Okay? So if I keep doing that, if I keep getting offended through my ego, what's happening? There is only an onslaught of duality taking place. Which means, Alma, the person who you are dealing with is somebody who you have attracted into your life to show you inside what is still dwindling pertaining to problems and conflicts that you have not yet seen. And you will know exactly what those conflicts are by seeing how you react to that person stabbing you, right? Again, being aggressive to you. I feel hurt. I feel violated. I feel like a victim. I feel angry. I feel sad. These are things we got to work on. So now I do a BCR technique. I go into my private space and I looked into all those things that I just addressed. And now I bring myself in time, right? Maybe I have to do it a few times, right? To get into the BCR technique, to start looking at these emotional states and start clearing them out one by one by one by one. Because my love is so much more powerful to me than any emotional conflict that I am reacting to. So now my love energy is soaring through the roof. I feel this heart space. I'm in my heart space. I'm creating all these beautiful things. I'm in my private space. I did my breath work. It brought me into calmness. It brought me into subtle calmness during HRV. I go into my heart and I start creating these beautiful things through my heart. And it fills me with so much love. It's 10 out of 10 on the scale. I clear it all out. I look at these cords representing this emotion. I cut it. I see this emotion. It's loose. I cut it. I see this emotion. It's loose. I cut it. I see this emotion. It's loose. I cut it. I see this emotion. It's loose. I cut it. Spirit, take care of it. Love energy, take care of it. Oh my God, I feel so much better. I feel like I've completely let go of those situations. The next day, that person comes back into my room. Comes back into my space. Alma, I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to lash out at you like that. I've just been going through a very, very difficult time, and I hope you can forgive me. Look what you've done. Can anybody see what's happened here? I'd like to hear your comments, guys. What happened? What happened? Why did that person change their perspective? Can anybody tell me? Right? Alma did all this inner work. She went into her space. She cut all these cords. Emotions are gone. What happened? Why did that person suddenly change? Can any of you guys tell me? Yes, Super Cali got it. You changed yourself. Alma, please be aware of this. There is nobody else here. You are the perceiver of everything. You are the magnetic attractor and the magnetic repulsor to everything in your life, period. To everything. To the people that are in your life, and if they feel like they're bullies and aggressors, it's because you are fueling the extreme on the other end as a victim. Aggressor, victim. As a victim, this is what they're doing to me. They're making me feel angry. They're making me feel upset. They make me feel like I'm traumatized. I feel like I can't speak. I feel abandoned. I feel abused. I feel rejected. Good, write those down. And we go into every single one of them and we clear them out. This is not about a very deep scientific exploration, everybody. We're just going into our heart, and we know that our heart has been going through these tough times. And we now see the cords. We see how they're tight. What do? We go through BCR. We engage ourselves with so much love energy. We're so happy. And we're now seeing those cords loose, and we're cutting them away. Spirit, take care of it. Love energy, take care of it. And now the next day, I'm so sorry I was like that. I didn't mean to be so harsh with you. You thought you would never, ever hear anything like that. But all of a sudden, this happens. And the reason I'm bringing this up, guys, because this happens so much when I tell people about doing this. They come back to me shortly afterward and say, Brad, I feel like everything's changed. That person's not aggressive anymore. Maybe they're not even in my life. Or they came back to me and they apologized. I can't believe this happened. What happened here? What changed? And I said, you did. You changed. Because you're the only one here. Because you're the only perceiver. This is your reality. This is your life. And you, like a fishing line, reel people in because of your magnetic alignment pertaining to certain emotional investments. So again, if you're feeling like you're down in the dumps, you feel like you're ungrateful, you feel like you're hurting inside, well, guess what? You're bringing a person who's going to mention that, who's going to act out in a situation to telling you that. It is spirit talking to you through these people. It's why we have these situations come together, because we're vulnerable, because we're emotionally compromised. And then when we realize that, we loosen the cords and we cut them. And now you're free. Now you see the change. That's how reality works, everybody. It's all magnetics. It's all energy. It's all vibration. So when you're now starting to feel on top of the world and you feel amazing, you say, oh my God, I feel so fulfilled inside the heart right now. None of that hurts anymore. It's because you made the change. You're the change maker here. So that's the answer to your question, Alma. Okay? It's not about fighting. It's not about running away. It's not about ignoring it. Duality, duality, duality. Is duality going to bring you sanctity? So why continue to invest in it? Go inside. Make this your house. This is your holy temple. This is your house. This is where perfection is. And now I go inside, I look at all these strings, these invisible strings that tether me to every single form of event that I have given my power away to. And I take them down one at a time. Cut, 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 cut. Because they're loose, 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 loose. I'm free. Thank you so much, everybody. We're going to wrap up for now. We're going to be back next week for another New Earth Practices episode. You can join me again tomorrow for New Earth TV Live, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. And I'm looking forward to talking to you guys again for tomorrow's webcast. Please take in everything that I shared here. Watch it again and again and again and again and again and again until it really makes an impact with you. Live inside. That's your home. All right? Take care, guys, and be well. Thank you very much for checking out the New Earth Teachings YouTube channel. Feel free to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And you can check out the websites, newearthteachings.com, where you can order a private session, 3 questions by email, EQ method, and a lot more. And you can also check out healingcodecards.com, where you can grab your mind deck, your body deck, and of course the brand new Body Deck Special Edition. All of these are available in digital editions as well. And you can also get a shirt just like this through healingcodeshop.com, where you can experience the healing codes in apparel form. So feel free to check out these websites. Thank you so much, and I'll speak to you again in the next video. Be well.